Hi, this is King of Review. In this problem, we want to find the product of matrix A times matrix B, and we're given these two matrices here. So a matrix is a rectangular arrangement of numbers in rows and columns. The product of two matrices is defined as long as the number of columns in the first matrix is equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. So before we even attempt multiplying these two matrices together, we must double check that the product will be defined. We do this by comparing the row and columns in each of the two matrices. So we have row by column in matrix 1 and row by column in matrix 2. The first thing we want to do is compare these two numbers here, the number of columns in matrix 1 and the number of rows in matrix 2. If these two numbers are equal, then we know that the product is defined. So defined if equal. If they're equal, then we can go forward and multiply the two matrices together, and we'll know the dimensions of the product by looking at these numbers. So the number of rows in matrix 1 times the number of columns in matrix 2. So these are the dimensions of the product. So let's take a look at A times B. So we have matrix A, 4, 1, -1 in the first row, and 3, 2, 0 in the second row. And we're multiplying this by matrix B, 2, 6 in the first row, 1, -4 in the second row, and 5 and -2 in the third row. So first we need to check if the product will be defined. So what are the dimensions of matrix A? Well, it has 2 rows and 3 columns. So matrix A is a 2 by 3 matrix. Now let's look at matrix B. Matrix B has 3 rows and 2 columns. So it is a 3 by 2 matrix. So we're checking these two numbers here to see if the product is defined. Both of these numbers are equal, so 3 is equal to 3, so we know that it is defined. Therefore, we can go forward and multiply these two matrices together. And if we want to know what the dimensions of the product will be, we look at this. So the dimensions of the product, this will be a 2 by 2. This is the dimensions of the product. So how do we multiply? We're going to multiply corresponding entries in the first row of A and the first column of B, and then add them together. So let's set this up. So we're going to have the first entry calculated as the addition of 3 products. So we have 4 times 2, that goes here, plus 1 times 1, so 1 times 1, plus -1 times 5. So again, we're multiplying corresponding entries in the first row of A and the first column of B, and we're adding them together. So that's how we got this first entry here. Now let's look at the second entry in the first column here. So I'm setting up the format for these 3 products. So we have 3 times 2 plus 2 times 1 plus 0 times 5. So we're continuing in the same fashion for this second entry here. And now we'll work with column 2. So I'm just setting up how we're going to compute these entries here. So we have 4 times 6 plus 1 times negative 4 plus negative 1 times negative 2. And the very last entry is 3 times 6 plus 2 times negative 4 and 0 times negative 2. So we have the setup for each of our entries, and the next thing we want to do is calculate those entries. So 4 times 2, that's 8, plus 1 times 1 is 1, plus negative 1 times 5 is a negative 5. So for our first entry, we have 8 plus 1 plus a negative 5, and this equals 4. For this entry, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 times 1, which is 2, plus a 0 times 5, which is 0. 6 plus 2 plus 0, that gives us 8. 4 times 6 here is 24, plus 1 times negative 4 is negative 4, plus negative 1 times negative 2, this gives us 2. 24 plus a negative 4 plus 2, this gives us 22. And the last entry, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 times negative 4, which is negative 8, plus a 0 times negative 2, that's 0. 18 plus a negative 8 plus 0, this equals 10. So this is our final answer here, and this is letter B. Thanks for watching.